Cállate la boca, por favor, mis amigos. Okay, serious. This is Luke Rudkowski of WeAreChange.org. I am here with Chili, and I am joined by Chris of Red Pill Philosophy. Now, Chris does amazing YouTube videos, and he asked me how to work the DSLR, how to master it, how to just know everything about it. So he's going to ask me some questions. I'm going to tell him what I do and what I've learned throughout my years of using the DSLR, and hopefully it could be helpful to you. If you have questions about video equipment and how to shoot great video, this is the video for you. See.
All right, so, well, my first question is, I own a Canon 7D, right? So could you tell me maybe what are the primary differences between this right here and the 7D?
Well, the 7D is more of a pro-consumer DSLR camera compared to the lower models like the 60D, the 70D, the T2Is, the T3Is. There's lower levels and there's higher levels. You get more options and more different features based on each camera's. Right. The most sophisticated one is the 5D Mark III, there's the 5D Mark II. The 7D is also kind of complicated. The more consumer friendly, the more, you know, for the person who just wants to pick up a camera, a 60D, a 70D are a lot better than those ones. If you're a professional filmmaker and want to do this for a while, I recommend getting the 5D or the 70.
And in your experience when you're going out there chasing politicians and doing videos like those, from a functionality perspective, which camera do you recommend? Is this basically the one that you'd recommend?
The one I definitely recommend, if you have the budget, if you have the money, is definitely the Canon 70D. It just came out a couple months ago, and one of the major drawbacks with DSLRs is a lot of these cameras have manual focus on video mode, and on video mode you are stuck just moving around this little lens here to make sure you capture the right framing, the right focus point, and it's really difficult. But the 70D, the new camera, has a great automatic focus that you don't even have to worry about, which means you just click something on your screen, which means it detects your face and automatically it focuses. This is the first DSLR that ever did this. I'm usually the one struggling around with it with a DSLR at Occupy Wall Street in the middle of the night in extreme low light, trying to focus my butt off because cops are just pushing us around and I'm falling all over the place, and it's really difficult. But now the 70D has replaced that problem. It's the only DSLR right now that allows you to shoot great autofocus just like in regular pro-consumer video cameras, but now you can do it within a DSLR. So it's definitely a go-to get if you have the money. If not, jerry-rig or bootleg it with other cameras. You don't, you know, technically you don't need the DSLR camera to shoot videos. It's not the best kind of camera to have because you only have 12 minutes shooting time. A lot of the older models you have to manually focus on all the video shoots you do, but to me it's worth it because I love cinematography. I love how you can have such a shallow depth of field, how you can have that focus in and out of what is important to you, and it's really a beautiful camera that you can get amazing, beautiful images with, not only pictures but mostly videos as well.
Sweet. All right, so I'm gonna turn this thing on now. I see there's like, looks like 10 separate settings right up top here. Could you maybe break down these settings and which ones work better for different kinds of lighting situations and stuff like that? Yeah.
Well, to me, the main settings that I use are manual and auto. If I'm being lazy and I have to move around a lot and I have to change settings a lot, but I don't have the time to do that and I don't have the time to concentrate like in confrontations, I just leave it on auto. And that's the basic, easiest model, the mode to have on here, because you just, you know, turn it on auto, click, point, and shoot. All you have to worry about is the focus, not the lighting, not the iris, not the ISO, not the shutter speed, not the f-stop. You don't have to worry about any of that. But when you put it on manual, you have to keep in mind all those things. Manual I usually use during interviews, sit-down places where I don't have to run around or run away from security guards or cover police officers beating somebody up. You know, whenever I don't have to do that, then I could use manual. And then the video shots are really amazing, really beautiful, because you could really manipulate this camera to give you the exact look you're looking for. So to me, the main settings on this main dial tone, you can see it here, are pretty much auto and manual. And those are the main two camera settings that I use on here. And then there's even more settings within on here, but my favorite thing when I'm using manual on here, and there's different ways to do this. You can go in the menu settings, go to movie exposure, and then I just usually click manual a lot of times. Okay, you have manual set up. You can set up the shutter speed and you can set up the f-stop. One of my favorite things to do is to lower the f-stop as much as I can, because the lower f-stop you put your camera down into, the more depth of field, the more light the camera lets in. I always boost up ISO, I always boost up the shutter speed just so I could have a good f-stop. To me, that's the most important thing.
What exactly is the f-stop?
The f-stop is the amount of light the camera lets in. And I usually get lenses that work preferably with a very low f-stop. So this lens is a Sigma 30mm f1.4 lens, and this camera really gives you an amazing shallow depth of field. It's a prime lens, which means they don't zoom, but it's affordable. You have the L series lenses, which are great, but you're pretty much paying for the build. You're paying for the durability of the L series lenses. They cost around $1,000, $2,000, and that's way too expensive for me. I don't really want to do that. And the f-stop is only at 2.8. I usually just go with a Sigma, or I have a Canon 28mm f1.8 that you're seeing me using right now. And the reason I do that is because, one, they're a lot cheaper. They may not last as long. They may be a little bit more clunkier. You may have to take care of them a little bit more, but they have a lower f-stop. They're a lot cheaper. You could afford it, and you could have so much fun with these cameras out there and be really creative when it comes to just deciding what you want to focus on and bringing the focus points back and forth. So that's why I went with these two lenses. They're fun. I enjoy them. They're not that expensive, and I just like using them. So yeah. And then usually more options that you have in there. Just pretty much what I did is I never was into cameras, but having one, you have to do a lot of your own research, and a lot of times I turn on YouTube and it just click how to use the 70D DSLR, how to get the best video look, and slowly I picked up a lot, and I've learned a lot, and it's really helpful. Other settings that you have to keep in mind is the frame rate. I usually like to leave it at what is it?
30 or 29?
There's 30, there's 20, there's 29, there's 60, and then there's another setting that allows you 24 frames per second, and you could do that through the menu option. Sometimes I like 24 frames per second. I use that when there's low light, because when there's low light and there's less frames per second, a lot more light comes into the DSLR,
right,
and it becomes a lot more handy to have lower frames. If you're shooting at 60 frames per second in low light, it's not going to be, the picture's not going to be as bright because the frames are just going to keep jumping up.
What's the primary point of 60 FPS? Is that, because I've heard before that's if you want to get like a slow motion shot,
yeah,
you shoot in 60 frames per second, which increases the number of frames, and then in the editing process you could actually get like a slow-mo,
yeah,
or a better slow-mo. Is that what the purpose of that is?
Yeah, 60 frames per second. I mean, that's one purpose. That's one thing I've been doing it with. You could get amazing, great slow-mo shots. Then you just reduce the frame rate to 30 frames per second after you just shot 60 frames per second, and then you get a really cool, smooth shot of slow motion. Another thing, it gives you a different look. Like we're shooting right now at 30 frames per second. It just looks, very clear. Doesn't look too all over the place. 60 frames per second, you get more movement. Like the camera, when it moves, you get exactly everything. Here, it's kind of more of a cinematic kind of. It's not as jittery, and I move the camera around just like you see right now as we're driving. We're trying to keep this camera steady as well. If this was on 60 frames a second, the jitteriness would be 2 times, 3 times as strong as it is right now. But shooting 30 frames, 24 frames per second, there's a lot less jitter, there's a lot less movement within the camera, because it's not getting all those frames, and that's exactly what it means. But there's somewhat of a learning curve when you're using DSLRs, but it's worth it if you're going to be doing this for a while. If you love cinematography, if you love getting that amazing video quality, DSLRs are the perfect start, and they're not that expensive. They're not as big as pro consumer cameras. There's different ranges. You could go from the T2i for $300-400, or you could go up to the 5D Mark III, and then that's $3,000, $4,000, depending on what lenses you use. And the lenses are very much important in how do you use these DSLRs?
Right.
It's not just the DSLR, it's mostly the lenses that give you this look.
And the lenses can be quite expensive on their own. Like they're ranging 200, 300, even higher than that. It's almost as fun. It's basically as fundamental to the camera as the body of the camera itself, the lenses.
Yeah, a lot of times some videographers I know, they pay more for the lens than they do for the body.
Yeah.
And you could really get up in price for $3,000-$4,000 Zeiss lenses that are made amazingly and give you all the options. Or you could do what I do and get the lens that I told you about for $300-$400, and then you still get that good look, you still get that really good f-stop. You have some limitations, you can't zoom in and out, but you still have that look. And it's not good, and when you're doing cinematography, it's not good to zoom. You don't want to zoom, especially if you're trying to be artistic, and if you're covering news, you don't want to zoom in as well. There's no, get your butt up, walk up towards the subject, then film them. That's a lot better than zooming in and out.
True.
No one wants to see that zoom in angle. It just doesn't work. Any other questions?
Yeah, maybe if you could just cover the audio aspect, because a lot of times the default audio that comes with these cameras is nowhere near as good as maybe a lav mic or purchasing a Tascam. So maybe if you can talk about what you recommend in terms of audio.
Yeah, audio is key. Let me just restart this because we're about to hit the 12-minute mark again. The 12-minute cutoff point, which again limits us to. All right, so the question was brought up about audio. Audio is very important. I mean, you could have a great video and crappy audio, and people will not watch the video. But if you have all right video and all right audio, people are more likely to watch your video online. So audio is extremely important, but also extremely expensive. The mics we're using right now, they're about $700. I never wanted to get them, but my friend that I used to work with demanded it because we had a wired microphone that always would fall apart, that always would get loose, that security guards would always kick and make sure, and we lost so many amazing interviews just by going really cheap on audio. But the main thing I recommend, if you don't have that much money, is to just use your cell phone. You could see in our videos and our interviews, a lot of times I just have my cell phone, I turn on the audio recorder, and I just use that. It gives you a little bit more work because then you have to go back home, you have to sync the audio, you have to download it from two sources, you have to put it together in the editing room. It's an extra step, but it's a very cheap step. And if you're doing things cheap, you have to have all these extra steps, which I'm very accustomed to. But it comes out really good, even if you just have a cell phone. If you're willing to upgrade good. If you're upgrading cheaply, it's going to hurt you longer in the run of everything that you're doing. So, shotgun mics, I don't even like to use that much because honestly, well, it depends. Shotgun mics don't really make that much of a difference when I'm in the street, especially in New York City with so much noise around me.
Right.
And if I have a shotgun mic and I'm trying to concentrate on a person's audio right in front of me, I might as well just have something right up in front of them, not far away.
Right.
And then, like if we had a shotgun mic right now, the shotgun mic would go above our head because the camera is a little bit higher than us right now. Why not just have a lav mic here, and then that could pick up both of our...
Lav mics are essential, definitely.
Lav mics are important, but also a stick mic is also really good. But if you don't have money for either, just use your cell phone and then mark them up later. But it's best when you have full control. That's why I don't like shotgun mics, because you have no control. It's just there. You might as well have the audio from the crappy DSLR instead of just having something in your hand or a friend that could actually go up to the actual source and get really clear audio and not, mess around.
It's definitely an evolutionary process. Like, you might start off small with some basic equipment that isn't the most efficient or effective stuff, but as you get used to things at your own level, you'll see the shortcomings of that, and then you'll decide, okay, I think I could improve if I maybe got a device that was a little bit more efficient with this. You go out, you buy that, next thing you know, your life is a little bit easier and the quality increases. So it seems like a lot of information. Start at whatever works for you, and then kind of work your way and evolve up from there, and you'll probably find yourself doing pretty well.
Yeah. If you don't have that much money, I definitely recommend getting a T2i and a 50mm f1.8 lens and your cell phone. That is, to me, the cheapest way to get good audio, get good video on a very affordable budget, and it won't cost you that much, but you still can get quality as we're doing it right now. If you have a lot of money, of course, 5D Mark III is the best one. And L series lenses. I have a couple dream ones that I always wanted to get, but you don't always need all the fancy toys. All you need is just something to work with. And if you really care about making good videos, a budget is not going to stop you. You're going to figure out ways to get there. Anything else?
Well, no, just a compliment to what you just said. There's more to making great videos than just the camera itself. The editing process is just as fundamental to the filming and the video making process as anything else. And you might even want to do a separate video on the editing process, because that's a science on its own. So, yeah, like you said, if you have the perseverance and you really want to make great quality videos, you'll find the way. And I think the advice Luke just gave is going to be a great starting point.
Yes, go out there, shoot, and don't be afraid to. And also, don't get a case for your camera, ever. If you have a case, you're not going to take the camera out. Always have the camera out with you everywhere you go, and that goes for some of the people in this car right now, and they know who I'm talking about. All right, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and if this was helpful to you, click the like button. Thank you. Afraid to talk about your depopulation plan.
Why don't you get lost?
Why should I get lost? It's serious.
Sick person.
Sick person. How am I sick? You're the one committing.
Mr. Rothschild, how you doing, sir? Can you tell us what went on at the Bilderberg meeting this year?
Sorry?
Could you tell us what went on at the Bilderberg meeting this year?
I didn't get that, actually, no.
The Bilderberg? You weren't there?
No.
Not this year. What went on last year?
No, I wasn't there last year.